Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook with your host Edward McQueen and April Garner Davis.
Oh, good evening, everybody. Good evening, April. How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, fantastic. You don't look like AI to me, but
you can't tell these days, Brother Edward.
Yeah, I kind of got that. I kind of got that impression, and it's always says that it's not necessarily what you see on TV. Well, what about what we see on the internet? Not just the TV, right? Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that leads into our discussion, and hopefully this is a fruitful one because I kind of think that people really, including myself, sometimes don't know what the impact, the real impact of AI and where it's headed and how it's going to affect our everyday living. And once we find out, you know, what the kind of reactions is going to have, what kind of actions will the community take in order to, after the evaluation, thinking that it's good or bad. Okay, I mean, we're running to that right now. So, April, we have with us today a young man who is an electrical engineer and he is dealing with some scenarios of AI, which I think can transfer to a lot of people. And certainly, I hope to be enlightened by his knowledge on that, which he's willing to share with us today regarding that. And if you have anything to say before I bring him on, you can please do so. Okay. No, obviously not.
Brother
Yeah,
Edward.
but your photo is. Yeah, I mean your video is stopped. Say of yourself. The camera is stopped. So, but anyway, who we have with us is young man. Like I said, he's an electrical engineer, and he works at you know one of the famous electrical manufacturing places. In fact, does air conditioning, like this engineering and design for Trane. We've seen that on some of our compressors of the air conditioner and stuff like that on the outside Trane. So, without further ado, let's bring on Mr. Jamin Grate. There he is. And Jamin, we've had conversations in the past, but it seems like, man, you are anxious to let us know. You want to tell everybody about the warnings and those steps on AI that, I'm sure I can speak for April that we look at that as very, very important, and all the caveats that come with it. So you want to, before you get into it, you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and give us a little background on yourself?
Sure. To everybody, my name is Jamin. I go by Jim or Jay. Grew up in Plantersville, which is located in Georgetown, South Carolina. So country boy at heart. Went to North Carolina A&T, got my electrical engineering degree there. Also, I got my master's at High Point University. Worked at a couple of pretty big companies in my tenure. I worked for Daimler. A lot of people know Daimler for Mercedes-Benz. They also build school buses, which is one of my current designs. Most of the school buses that you see on the road today has my electrical footprint on it. That's one of the first designs I did out of college.
Whoa, really?
I also have a cousin. Yeah, and I also have a first cousin, which was funny because when I graduated, I didn't know he worked for Daimler as well. He worked for the branch that was in South Carolina. His name is DeLon. Shout out to DeLon Grate.
Right.
So he worked on the chassis side. I worked on the interior side. Both as electrical engineers, actually. So first cousins, electrical engineers. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
I also did Collins Aerospace. Worked there for a couple of years as an electrical engineer and a systems engineer. What I did there is pretty much the interior design for the super first class seats. So things like the Emirates Airlines or the British Airways Airlines. Those luxury seats that folds down to a bed that has the flat screen TV in it. Those are my designs as well. So I've done those electrical designs. Actually, at that point, I went and got my master's and got into business. So that was my latest designs. After that, I started managing major projects for the military, for Collins Aerospace. I managed aftermarket parts, a team for aftermarket parts at Volvo. I did that for a couple of years. And now I've found a pretty decent job that I like in Trane Technologies. They focus on HVAC. A lot of people know Trane from their units outside.
Yeah.
They have Trane or Carrier or something like that. That's the residential. What people don't know is Trane also manages commercial. So major things like data centers, which we're going to run back to in this conversation, but you also do major buildings like Duke Hospital, Duke College. We got our HVAC systems there. They're really huge. They have to cool the whole building. If you think about buildings like those skyscrapers in New York City,
right?
They don't have those small little HVACs that you got in your house. They got the huge things. Yeah. And that's what my team designs, the big ones that goes into the skyscrapers so we can cool and heat those big buildings.
And that takes a lot, I know.
Yeah.
You got to have a lot of compressors on top of those buildings. Though.
Yeah.
That's all right.
And we do different compressors too. We do scroll compressors. We do centrifugal screw compressors, whichever one depends on how big and how much tonnage you need. Yeah,
right. Well, great, man. Sounds so interesting that this conversation that you're going to bring forth with us today is, I'm sure it's going to be pretty enlightening. So let's start by just having our audience, our viewing audience, know the big question what is AI, artificial intelligence? What is it?
So I won't bury the lead. I'll go straight into it. To me and a lot of people in the engineering community, AI is nothing but a marketing word. It's not truly to the definition of what artificial intelligence is. When I hear artificial intelligence, I'm thinking like I don't know, you guys seen the movie I, Robot? It's kind of old with Will Smith.
Yeah,
That's
right.
artificial intelligence. That's what it's supposed to do. And like the movie, it's fictitious. There's no fact to it. There's
Right.
no such thing. A lot of people in the community, especially and more in the country communities that don't really know it, they say AI, they think it's just like iRobot. It's that robot, but on your computer. Chat GPT is like that iRobot, but without a body, right? That's what they think. But what that is that you're dealing with, everything that they say is AI is really just autonomous coding. It's very, very clever coding from our engineering community. I'm impressed by it. I like it because I know what it is. I know what it does. Every time you ask a question and it spits out an answer, it's just very clever coding. It's doing what you want to do automatically, which is why it's called autonomous. Like you got autonomous vehicles, you got autonomous controllers, everything's autonomous. But in essence, it's no such thing. It's just what marketing knows to sell something to you faster. So that's why I wanted people to know that, the world's not going to be taken over by AI. There's no such thing. It's just like those grenades that get launched in the Rambo movies where it's a big old fire and explosion, but all the military people are like, that's not how a grenade really does in real life. That's not how it works. That's how engineers feel about AI when people are like, oh, I got this new AI car, I got this new Tesla car. That's not really AI. It's just know how to self-drive by cameras and the guy behind the chair like me writing coding that say that this camera says you can't go off this lane and you can't go off that far off this lane. That's all it is. There's no brain in the Tesla cars. There's no brain in their hard drive. There's no brain. Just inputs and outputs, if that makes sense. So I wanted to start the conversation off there where people think that AI is going to take over the world. Not true. Now, take over your job, maybe depending on where you're at. You still have concerns there, but not the world. That's not what's going to happen.
So you said, I'm sorry, you pronounce your name Jam or Jam? How Jam?
It's pronounced Jamin. Like
Jamin.
Benjamin without the Ben. Yeah.
Okay, Jamin. Okay. So yes, Jamin, there's a lot of talk about artificial intelligence and how it's woven itself into, I guess, the practicality of the world, right? We can't get along without our dots or Alexas. We have refrigerators and freezers and washing machines that supposedly have artificial intelligence, but you're actually debunking that. You're kind of explaining that it's not really artificial intelligence, it's more about the way it's coded to do a certain thing, correct?
Right.
Okay. So, but when it comes down to Alexa, I recently heard that there's some who's in trouble. I'm not going to say who's in trouble, but you probably heard that Alexa listens to us and they're using that information. Okay. So with that being said, how can we as consumers feel comfortable with the inclusion of artificial intelligence, or what did you call it earlier? Autonomous.
Just autonomous coding. That's what I like to call it. But
yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's just my word for it.
Okay.
For the conversation, we can call it AI.
Okay.
Because that's what's being called today. I just wanted to let the people know that, that worried about artificial intelligence, that true. And I want to back up too and say, for people who want to understand what an engineer feel like AI is, the definition is a computer. It can be any kind of computer, your phone, internet, whatever, that has the ability to learn, not store information and reiterate it back to you by what they found when they searched the internet, because things like Chat GPT, it stores information and searches the internet to try to match the information you're asking it for. Again, input and output. But to actually learn and say, 1 + 1 is 1 because I learned that I take an apple and get another apple and I got 2 apples. The internet can't do that. It knows 1 + 1 is 2 because it went to a website, Chat GPT will go to a website that teaches math or something, see what the answer is, come back to it, and give you the answer in a dialogue that you're comfortable with. So it might tell me two, as in, hey, yo, the answer is two, because it knows how I like to talk. But it'll say, ma'am, this answer is two, because it knows how you know how to talk. So it makes it clever and makes it think that it's a real person, but it's not. And this is general answers. I don't work for Chat GPT, so I don't know exactly how they code it. So I want to put a little disclaimer out there for that too. But I'm sorry, I digress a lot. What was the question again?
Well, I will touch on a point that you just made, and then I'll go back to my question. The point that you just made about Chat GPT, basically being kind of like a an aggregate of all the things that it pulls from, an aggregator, if that's a word, of all the things that it pulls from the internet. And then it's kind of an amalgamation of all of that to answer your question, to create your graphic, to do whatever it is that you're asking it to do, from the standpoint of, oh, I know that, if I'm Chat GPT, he just asked me to create a graphic that has an apple and a moon on it. Then it's going to go out there and find apples and moons, create a graphic based on what you put in the details. And that's how Chat GPT does it. If it asks, and a lot of people have been using Chat GPT as an example to create memes of themselves and pictures and their professional advertisements and all of that. And I think it's all well and good. I don't know that people really understand how Chat GPT, as an example, pulls all of that information together to create what it is that they're asking them to create. So it's not that I heard people say, oh my gosh, it's it knows everything about you. It's looking into your records, it's doing this and it's doing that. But really, is it more about it following what's already out there, what you've put out there, your habits, your patterns, all the things, and then it creates this profile of who you are and it answers your questions. If you input a resume as an example, it's going to take that information and do exactly what you ask it to do, which is, make this a one-pager, turn it into a brief, do whatever, but it's really working from what you have put into it. Is that correct? And then it goes out and finds other information to, I guess, supplement whatever you put into it.
There you go. That's accurate enough for the conversation. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I'll say yes to that.
Okay, perfect. So then going back to my question, which is, how can we as consumers feel comfortable with AI, with everything that's circulating about what AI is potentially doing to our privacy and how it's, I guess, kind of infiltrating our privacy and creating profiles on us, or has the potential to steal information, and all the things that are kind of like negative narratives around AI. As you're trying to like describe what it is and what it isn't, how would you make people feel comfortable with the fact that it's kind of here to stay? And we have to use it in a lot of ways. So how do we use it wisely? How do we get comfortable enough to use it the way we should use it?
Well, you took my question away. Go ahead. That was a good question.
That's all right.
So really, it's going to be kind of hard, especially this younger generation that gives every type of data they own straight to Instagram, Facebook, or whatever the case may have you. There's supposed to be legalities to kind of help us, like some apps, for example, will ask you, can I store your information? And you click no or yes or whatever. Can I use your camera, for example? A lot of people don't know that a lot of these AI apps or whatever, or just general apps, use your cell phone camera when you're not using the app. So that's why your iPhone is say, or your app or your Samsung would say, can it be on or while using app? I don't know if you guys seen that. It says while using app, not at all, or yes all the time.
Yeah, gives you
that. Click yes. You click yes all the time. They're recording you right now. Like if I think of this computer, they're recording you. They're storing it right now. There's a lot of gray area because it's new technology. If it's new, then there's no way to say there's a law against it. And if you want to debate legislature, whatever, then you really just got to be a lawyer at that point. All of it is gray. So just to be as clear as possible and transparent as possible, it's going to be really hard to protect your privacy unless you're aware of what you're giving the computer. I would treat the computer, and when I say computer, any type of electrical device that you interact with, whatever you're comfortable giving somebody who calls you on the phone. Because whatever that you give that person on the phone can be stolen. That can be stolen from any apps too. A lot of AI stuff for credit cards. Credit card companies use AI to store information. That's why you get a lot of credit card companies saying if your information was stolen or your identity was stolen, is because there's hackers and they're able to hack into that AI, get your information and steal it because they stored it. And there's nothing keeping them from storing it because the terms and conditions on almost every single application you use says, can I, if you say agree, if you check this box and say agree, you're agreeing that I can keep your information.
That's it.
And that covers them legally, and you want to go, well, I want you to keep all my information except my social security number. And then you know what, you can say that to Chat GPT too, like delete my social security number. You never really know if they deleted it or not unless you got hacked. And if you got hacked and they actually got it, then there's going to be a major lawsuit or whatever. And that's how it's working today. There's a lot of lawsuits from a lot of hacking, from almost everything from student loans. They got hacked. Down to just your cell phone, really. And it sucks, but that's just the life that's the world we're living in right now. And the only way you can keep yourself safe is to not put it out there. And it's hard not to put it out there because the world puts everything out there. And the only way you can get to it, credit card, for example, if you don't check yes to terms and conditions, then you don't have that credit card, but you need that credit card. So now you're kind of forced to say yes. Now you're forced to give that information away. And there's nothing you can do about it until, you know, it hurts somebody of importance like Trump, and then now Trump mad. Then there's going to be a law made.
And you know, right. And the reality is that the average consumer will check the box as far as terms and conditions and never read the terms and conditions. And the terms and conditions are probably, you could probably scroll for 5 minutes on terms and conditions, and it's written in legalese, so you don't really understand what it is that you're agreeing to. I think that, you know, for me as an end user who is, you know, on computers and my phone a lot. One thing that I noticed too is like sometimes when you're, you know, getting ready to complete a form or even going to a website, you know, it'll ask you about cookies or it'll make you aware of the cookies, right? And then it'll also ask you whether or not you accept certain things or just the ones that you really want and all of that. And people really have to like be intentional about taking a moment or two to go through and say, you know what, yes, I just want you to use, you know, this for whatever function I'm trying to do. I don't want no advertisements. I don't need no, you know, I don't want you to target me for anything or whatever. But we just as consumers do not do that because we're just ready to get down to whatever the business is that we're trying to complete.
Application,
you know, you just want to get it done. And so, you know, I think that, you know, this is a great conversation to have in terms of like, what is artificial intelligence, but, you know, leaning into what are the implications of it, because I'm sure that, and, you know, you shared with the audience your very extensive and impressive career, in this industry, right? And just the IT engineering industry, electrical engineering, whatever it is that you do. But I'm sure that along the way, because you don't look to be that old, or that seasoned, or whatever the word is, or whatever the word is. But along the way, I'm sure that there were conversations within the different companies that you worked for about, you know, what was to come. That AI was like on the horizon. It was, you know, going to be a part of the future. And when can you say that you actually first heard those types of conversations? And as you think back, where do you think it first showed up? Like that you first recognized this is artificial intelligence, or this is autonomous coding, or whatever it is that you said earlier. Like, when did you first notice it?
So I actually took a class on artificial intelligence and coding and machine logic and machine language. So I've been introduced to it since 20. I'm about to show my age. I'm so used to say 20, but it's actually 2008. That's when I started coding. That was my sophomore year in college. And then 2011, my senior year, that's when I took the artificial intelligence class. Mm-hmm. So that's when I knew that we call it artificial intelligence, but it really is just advanced layered coding. to the point where most things that are coded to this point are just years and years and years of
stored information.
Yeah, storage and layer. When I turn 50, my code for, like, if I worked at Google, if I turn 50 and I worked at Google, my code would still be there as base logic, and then some 20-year-old will be still building on that code. And that's why they're calling it AI, because it's layers of coding to have gotten so good to the point where just like our television screen right now, it started with what, 360p, 480, something like that. Yeah. And then now we got what, 1440. That's just coding on top of coding. Cameras getting better and better and better. The coding for the camera got better, better and better. But the original code is still there. And sometimes that original code breaks because it's not going to be able to go with that new guy, that 20-year-old that fresh out of college. His code is going to break that original code, and then you get the error on your screen. It's not working, or this app is down right now. You got to fix this app, and then they do patch coding to try to patch the work. I don't know if you guys heard that term before, but that's what patchwork is when they call it patching. It's really just trying to fix my new guy's coding to work with the old guy's coding, because they dare not delete the old guy's coding. They will not touch it, and that's how that works. So, so long story short, I've known artificial intelligence since 2000. No, I'll say 2010, which is what, 16 years from now. Which is why made me blush when you said I don't look that old, but definitely
black don't crack.
There you go.
Yeah. And it's interesting because let's talk social media, these social media platforms, and I mean there are tons of them. I remember when Twitter, well, X, formerly known as Twitter, when Twitter came on the scene, and I was working at an advertising agency, and I remember the junior media buyer running into our office, and she was like, listen, there's this new thing, and apparently you can send something called tweets, and it's only X amount of characters, and it's supposed to be the next biggest thing. Now, I remember when that came on the scene. I remember when Facebook was really more like a LinkedIn, and then somehow or another it, kind of turned the curve and became something totally different. I think when people are surprised that they can say a thing into their phone and it shows up on social media, the first thing they think, artificial intelligence is taking over. Yeah. And so if you will, explain like how that happens, the evolution of social media apps, and how artificial intelligence, or the layers and layers of coding, like you said, the advanced layer coding, how all that comes into play as these apps are built, and what people really need to know about utilization of these apps. And if you know if anything's on the horizon, that's part 3 of this question. Tell us what you know. Spill the tea. What do we need to look forward to?
I will stop right here and say that.
Yeah, don't get yourself in trouble now, okay?
I was about to say, I will stop here and say that if I cut myself off, I still work for the industry. So I can't get myself in trouble. But I will say terms and conditions, right? Like you mentioned here, Facebook, I don't know how they do it, and I don't want to get sued by Facebook by any chance if this goes viral or something, right? But I will say that Facebook takes the coding and terms and conditions to make sure they're covered themselves to listen to our conversations, right? If I say podcast like 100 times here, I guarantee you when I start scrolling on my Facebook tonight, I'm gonna see all kinds of podcasts. Because it's recording. It is. You prove it unless you're an engineer and you can break into Facebook and read their coding, which then it's illegal to do that. So if I try to sue them for something that I just caught them doing, they can counter sue me back because I hacked into the stuff. So it's really hard to kind of prove it, but it's there, and it's not just them listening, recording right now. It's me going on there, and then they build an algorithm based on what you search, what your friends search, who's around you, and that's another thing too. It hacks in your GPS. That I know for a fact, and I can prove that because there was a lady that I saw once in my life. I only saw her one time, and that was at my wife's job, and it was the principal's daughter. And I go home, and the principal's daughter is people you may know, right?
Wow. Yep.
This lady, I've never seen this lady before in my life.
Right.
But I asked her in the same vicinity, and it collects that data. People think it's AI, but that no, it's not. It's just coding. The code goes something in general. If I'm gonna say Samsung because I'm gonna say Samsung 1 is in X location, and they'll do lateral, longitude, and latitude, and this person is in this area, then push this profile to people you may know. That's just all it is. And I'm not no genius here, but I just told you basically how that works in AI. So it's really simple. Sense. It's clever coding. But if you don't know how to code in computer logic and language, then you're thinking, oh my God, this thing has a mind of its own. It knew that I was next to this person, collected this person, and gave it to me. That's not what happened. So it's one of those. I want people to understand where the fear needs to be, because there does need to be fear. Let's be clear there. But the fear doesn't need to be that artificial intelligence is learning. Like I said, the definition of it is it learns upon itself until it has its own consciousness. Now, that's what most people fear, but that's not what it is. What people need to fear is a person in the background that's behind the computer that knows that legally there's gray area that I can know where you're at, when you're there, what you say when you were there, and how much time you were there. That's a lot of personal information that you just don't want to just have just floating around there, but you can have it. Matter of fact, there was a issue where, what's the name of the guy that owns Facebook again?
What's his name?
Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg made a public statement saying that if the government forces him to use his information to find somebody, I can't remember who it is, but I'll look at offline here, that he's going to sue the government because the government uses Facebook to find people. They have done it before, and they bullied Zuckerberg to do it, and he admitted it in public. And if it was libel, I'm sure the government would have sued him, but nobody gave him anything for it. So that information is very dangerous. We can find people through that information, and we can eliminate people through that information as a government. And we have eliminated people through that information because Facebook's worldwide. America's enemies is using Facebook.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, now a couple of questions, Jamin. How, in your view, April may have asked that question before, but how can it improve human life right now? AI.
Well, so I'm glad you said that, because I felt like we was going very bad down a negative rabbit hole when there is good things about AI. So, for example, everyday chores, right? You know, you got people who cut the grass. Grass takes maybe an hour, 2 hours to cut. The backfield that we got in my yard, that's a half a day right there just cutting that. There's artificial intelligent lawnmowers now. You cut it on, it takes the layer of your land and it cuts your field for you. That's a whole day if you lived in Plantersville that you can save to yourself. The main thing that engineering wants to do to the community is make human life easier, right? So things that you want to do, make it a little easier. And you know, there's people of age, you know, maybe they just can't go out and do it no more. You know, buy one of those, cut your own grass, you know. Driving, the Tesla car drives itself. Now that technology started pretty bad, I will say, but that technology's gotten so much better that if you go to Atlanta right now, there's a taxi service that's no driver. And I seen it with my own eyes. So I promise you that it's there. I don't know what it's called, but that company, you know, they use AI to drive their cars.
Yeah, I think I saw that. I think I saw that. But I thought it was in its infancy, you know, still in its infancy. I didn't think that it was great to the magnitude of, you know, you're reaching the epitome of technology where you don't need it you need to monitor it anymore.
Yeah, like you sit in the back seat and there's nobody in the front seat and it takes you wherever you want to go. In Atlanta, of all places, if you ever been to Atlanta, the traffic's horrible there.
Yeah. Well, that's certainly in some ways I would call that an improvement on human life. One of the questions, well, one of the statements was on our marquee here was says it's not necessarily what you see on TV.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of elaborate on that a little bit. Now, secondly, the data centers that everybody's trying to resist, all communities are trying to resist from coming up in their community. Are these really supercomputers, or they're just huge storage where you can just extract information when somebody asks a question?
All right, so I'm glad you brought that up. So I wanted to lead that with, people also don't know where AI physically live. Like people see it on their phone and think, well, AI lives on my phone because that's where I use AI, or AI is in my car. No, that's the end user in an essence. Where artificial intelligence live was more like you say, the data centers, right? So I wish I had brought props here, but a data center is usually a large storage facility, and it can go acres, almost look like a farm, right? And this I've had eyes on, right? I know this because of current work, and because of current work, I have limited information about it that I can actually share. But for my people in my community, these data centers are designed to be prioritized wherever they lay, right? And where would they want to lay? Places like Plansville. Plansville is basically created on a swampy area, a lot of water, right? And the reason why water is important, a lot of free air, a lot of clean air. Plansville is created. I know it has one of the best air quality in the South. Basically because the moss plant, right? The moss plant can only grow where there's great air quality. So you got great air quality, you got a lot of water you can use, a lot of city water, and a lot of natural water, natural unsalted water. Yeah. So if you take a place like my community where I grew up, at the backyard is a pretty good couple of acres, and the man comes in and says, I want to buy your land for $1 million, right? Usually you'll go, yeah, I'll take the $1 million, but the rest of the community will suffer because the way the data centers are created, you got a lot of supercomputers. They are supercomputers. And when I say computer, I'm not talking about like a monitor, what we're looking at right now. I'm talking about just a big block machine that constantly computes 24/7. So what does that mean, right? What happens when you have computers like that? That's acres long, and they're packed together, acres of it. Now, when you have that, you need to keep it cool. It's going to get really, really hot. If the data center gets, and it's called data centers because that's just the name they put into it. But if it gets really hot, you have to cool it, and that's when Trane gets involved, right? We put all of our units on top of the data centers or below, wherever we can fit them in at, and we keep the supercomputers cool. And some computers need to get down to 0 degrees, like sub-zero temperatures, just because that's how hot it's running. To do that, you need water. And the way they design the data centers is they take the priority of the water from the community. So if you have one within your community, and you turn your faucet on and it's just dripping, there's nothing the city can do about it because the data center just took up all the water. It kills the wildlife because there's nothing there it won't be able to eat. There's no water. There's nothing that can kind of thrive there anymore. So you're talking about killing the ecosystem. And there's not really any laws about it because, again, it's new. And these data centers, they're bad not just because of AI. A lot of major companies need data centers. Amazon needs data centers, not just for Alexa, but because everybody shops on Amazon, right? Where is those orders stored? Where do they go? They go to the data centers. and those are they're in California, they're in South Carolina, they're everywhere over the community. It's at the point where a data center is the new electrical farm. You know, you farm out for food, you farm out for animals. Now you can farm for technology, because that's what they need. They need the water. They take it away from the community. You got good air quality. I mentioned that earlier. Now your air quality is poor because if you have a lot of fans in the data centers, you got a lot of fans in the HVAC system, and they're sucking in the good air to cool down these units. You got water cooled and air cooled, and if you do air cool, you suck in all the good air, and then you're blowing out all the bad air. And just to give an example of bad air, you know, your computer gets really hot. You hear that fan kick on, and I don't know if you ever smelt that air. If you ever get a chance to smell it, it's really nasty, right? Can't even inhale it really. Imagine that on a larger scale, on a data center scale, just pushing that out into the community. That's all you're smelling. You're gonna have New York City in the country. You know, not to throw shade on New York City, but people from the city, but you guys know what the air quality is there.
Yeah, so you're basically talking about an option of using a chill water system for the cooling. Is that correct?
Yeah, you can use chilled water, and they'll take the water from the community, and you know, they use thermodynamics basically. You take your chilled water, you mix it with refrigerant. That's how you get it colder, and then you run it through the system with your hot components, and then you make your hot components cool, and then the warm water goes back out again, and there's just a cycle. That's kind of in a general term how HVAC systems work.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, man, look, to our audience, I hope everybody's soaking this in. It's really, really good information. And people can stop and asking questions today and just reflect on what was discussed today. You know, because people get what's happening today is causing a lot of people to be inquisitive about the word AI, because the word AI is put out there and people just overlook it. They say, well, it's artificial intelligence. You know, I don't know anything about artificial intelligence. All I know is that it's new technology, you know. So, but our conversation hopefully will make them want to be inquisitive about it, and and discussion about AI. There was one other issue. You said you were you developed some things, or you invented some things. I'll use the word invented during your first couple of jobs. Did you get a patent on those things that you developed, or you just a product of the job of the company?
My younger years, I got one patent. I believe I got like maybe $500 for it, you know, whatever. Whoa. Yeah. Wow. You know, rich now, but I created I called it an IP67 battery box for when I first worked for school buses. There was an issue with corrosion with the batteries. Batteries would die quicker because at the end of the day, school buses, they're not cleaned weekly like you would your car. That battery box compartment area gets really dirty. And you can't completely seal, and you probably know this, Edward, because you know with your background as well. But you completely seal a battery box, then you know you have different chemicals there. You're not supposed to seal it. It needs to have ventilation. So how do you keep ventilation in the battery box and keep it clean at the same time, so you can protect that battery? So basically, I play with the angles of the vents, make it where when it's at a certain temperature, the vents will open up a little more, and then they naturally close when it's not at a certain temperature. And I kept it on the back end of the box, so that way, that was the least area to get dirty. So that's where I kept my ventilation system in, and I tested it, water tested it, dirt tested it. And it made IP69, I think, which is a better grading for it. Most of your phones, if you don't know, your phones is rated for IP67, IP69. That's why they say, "Oh, drop it in the water. You know, it won't hurt because it has to meet that rating."
Okay.
So that's my one. You know, I check box off that in the career.
Yeah. Well, at least you were knowledgeable enough to want to get the patent. I don't know where that's leading to or whatever, but if that's proprietary information, then I won't talk about it anymore.
I don't work for them anymore. I'll talk about that all day.
I mean, from your perspective, I mean, it's yours since you got patent, right? Yeah.
No, it's not mine at all. Anything that I design as an engineer that's related to the company that I work for will have my name on it. I get a stipend and a pat on the back. Now, if I was to quit my job, make that same design and patent it, then they would have to pay me a lot of money.
Yeah. Wow. So they got away clean.
Yeah, most companies do. Most Fortune 500 companies. That's why they like engineers. Once you become an engineer for that company, all of your intellectual property becomes theirs.
It becomes theirs. Yeah, you sign off on that. Yeah. Yeah, man. I like to really want to go back to I don't know why I'm dwelling on this, but this these information modules that they're using, like the data centers, for example. And you concluded that they're not really all supercomputers, right?
Well, it depends on your definition of supercomputers. Now, if you're talking about the way they are able to, in the engineer definition, a supercomputer is something that can take input and create an output at a very extreme capacity. You're talking like if you gave it 1 million questions, it can give you 1 million answers in less than half of a second. That's how fast their processing power is. Now, those are supercomputers. Now, if you mean in that type of aspect, these data centers are housing supercomputers. Now, if you mean supercomputers in the aspect of a sentient being, like our robot or the Matrix, for example, no, they're not supercomputers in that type of aspect.
So there was protest maybe a few months back in Hollywood about the actors out there were concerned about AI taking over their jobs. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? How that could happen?
Yeah. So 2-part answer. I always go back to this. People think it's AI. Like when you see somebody and they'll be like, "Oh, that's AI." You can't tell if it's a real person or AI. In general, what they do is let's use for example, before there was AI, right? You used to have the Hulk, right? Let's use the Hulk from Marvel. How did they make that person, right? How did they make it without AI? You know, how did they make them Hulk out? And I'm not talking about the original one like my dad used to watch where they just paint them green. That one's easy, right? I'm talking about like maybe the one in 2000, 2001, that movie when he became real big and huge. That how did they do that, right? So they just use clever coding, a man behind the computer for hours to make him grow into this super big being. And what was it? CGI? That's what it was. It was CGI, right?
Yeah. So computer graphics.
Exactly, computer graphics. So what they do is use that coding instead of there's a guy on the computer that codes to make the CGI look good. It's just autonomous now. You say this is the person. You put a picture of the person, and then you tell the chat bot or whatever. I call them chat bots because it could be anything, Chat GPT or whatever. Make this person big and green, and then the computer itself just does the CGI work versus you doing it, which means it's again autonomous versus a sentient being being able to learn.
Right.
So that's the first half of the question. The second half is the actual issue of it happening. So the answer is yes, AI will take your job. If they can make a person look very, very good, it's still a work in progress. But if they can make a person act, they can write the whole script out, and then just the chat bot will take the script and just make the person do what the script says. It's just that simple. So you won't need an actor anymore. The problem with it is it's not, when I say it's not there yet, if you look at subtle things, you'll notice like this actor has 6 fingers on one hand, or this actor doesn't have a foot. You like, if you notice that those little things, then that's how you know if it's AI or not. So it's not perfect yet. But if it gets to the point where it is, you don't need stunt doubles no more, because you just do, because the CGI looks that good now.
Yeah.
Or you can call it AI. So now stunt doubles are out the window.
Yeah,
maybe scenes that actors refuse to do, but you signed the contract. Oh, you don't have to do it. I'll just let CGI do it. I'll just tell AI, make this man kiss this man. You didn't kiss him, but to the world you did. You signed the contract. There's nothing you can do at that point.
That doesn't sound too.
It's not good, but that's what happens. You're getting your leverage getting taken away. Basically, you don't have any leverage anymore, and it sucks. But it's happening everywhere. It's happening to some engineers. There's chat bots that engineers use in college. I just learned this from some colleagues that still teach. They'll use Chat GPT to code for their code class. And Chat GPT is coding, like I said. So you're using code to fix your code. Now, you're smart enough to know that Chat GPT can do this, but not smart enough to know that if Chat GPT can do this, then why do they need software engineers now that Chat GPT can make their own code? As an engineer, I could just tell Chat GPT to code what I needed to code. So now even engineers' jobs are in jeopardy because of AI.
Wow. That's really going in depth, okay, about unemployment in the technology field. That's really.
And really that's been happening before I even got into the field. I think it's been happening since you've been in the engineering field. If you think about it, a lot of manufacturing jobs got cut once they were able to do robotic arms. That's where it started with in the manufacturing.
Yeah.
You have the arms. With Boeing, they build the plane by itself. You put your parameters in, the robotic arm just goes ahead and start building the plane out together. Just start cranking out planes. I don't need nobody twisting bolts no more. I got an arm that can do that. I code the arm to do what I needed to do by manufacturing techs. It started with that, but now it's getting higher and higher to the point where unless you know coding or AI, then I don't need you. That's the only job that's going to need to have the time to actually be, proficient for a company. Just jobs that actually fix the thing that does the job, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And you've been talking a little scary here, man. You've been that information. The information gets a little scary there.
It's pretty dark, and I wanted to focus a little bit on the pros of it, because there are pros, but only for people who can use it to their advantage. For people who want to go to high school and get a job right out of high school, it's already hard before AI. Now it's even that much more harder. It's like you're going to have to go to college, or you're going to have to find something that can make you money that AI can't do. Because if AI can do it, then why would I hire you as a businessman?
Well, America has this what's called H-1-B program that it allows people who are
overseas.
Pretty close to geniuses, most of Indians, okay, because they have the most so-called geniuses, so to speak, after 1.4 billion people, and 400 million of them are supposed to have knowledge of IQ or something like that. But anyway, they're kind of like inundating California technologies or strip or community. So you don't think that you could do something like that, or what they are doing? How do you feel about that? Do you think you're eligible to do that? Because without knowing,
you flatter me. I wouldn't think that I'm at genius level. I'm really gifted with numbers.
Yeah.
So I was able to do engineering based on crunching out the numbers.
Yeah.
To get to that level, I would have had to stay in college probably get my master's in engineering, follow with my PhD in engineering. I have a colleague that I met when I was at A&T. He got his PhD in engineering. He's up there with those guys that does those things. I just wanted to make money, so I got as soon as I got my degree, I went into the workplace.
Right. That's
But you would have to study. You would have to be a genius. You would have to study.
Let's stop. Let's stop right there. Maybe it's a lack of a better word, not genius. I don't want to say that. Yeah,
subject matter expert, maybe.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe that sounds like a better word because.
Yeah, subject matter expert needs to be. They need to get their PhD, so they can become a doctor in that field. You know, most people think of doctors as medical doctors, but you need to be a doctor in engineering as well. They go at that point. You become a theorist. You focus on the theory of engineering, no matter the subject, electrical, civil, mechanical, whatever. It could be argued that you can get that through real world experience too, and I probably can. Yeah. I can go.
I was asking about that, especially coding, right? Yeah. I think that's through experience, right? You can become better than your colleague or whatever. If you can. Yeah. If you get become very skillful in coding.
Yeah, I could probably go to college now straight to get my doctorate. I wouldn't have to get a master's because I've had that much engineering experience. That's allowed in a lot of collegiate institutions, and I could do that. Now, will I do that? Maybe when my kids get a little older.
Yeah.
Right now,
and you will have enough experience by then. So.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So.
And then I got to make sure I can be competitive with my wife. My wife's thinking about getting her PhD as well, so I can't let her one up me. So there's that too.
Oh, I say one up, huh?
Yeah. You gotta be 2 Dr. Grates in the family. Can't be 1 Dr. Grate and it's her. Yeah. So it's in the goals. It's definitely in the goals.
Yeah, and that's good. That's good to hear. I'm glad to hear that, man. This has been some kind of an hour. This talking with you and discussing this issue on artificial intelligence. Each time I talk with somebody about it, I just learn a bit more, and it's certainly helped me a little bit. At least I'll know some of the language, not the coding language, but when I'm talking, I'll know what they're talking about. And that is.
Sorry, I want to interrupt, but I saw somebody say that daughter's going to North Carolina A&T. Please tell me what field. Is it going to be electrical, mechanical, software? Because they do software now. They used to combine it when I was in college, but now it's separate.
This post was by Ms. Verdell Beckman. Ms. Verdell, thank you for watching tonight. It's her granddaughter going to A&T and says she's interested in graphic design. Okay. That's a question. Well, actually, it's I'm going to say it's our plea for advice that you can give young people about where they really should focus their academic endeavors, because not to dream kill or anything like that. Everybody kind of flows based on their passions, but all the things you talked about tonight points to the future, and the future is obviously rooted in artificial intelligence and all the things you talked about in terms of coding. So what would you advise young people who are trying to figure out what their career path should be? What would you advise them to think about in terms of possibly getting into the field?
Okay, so the first thing I would say, and this is based on my experience and in my solely, I would go to a HBCU. I don't care if you're white, black, green, yellow, go to a HBCU for your bachelor's. The culture and the way they teach at an HBCU is different. My very first class, my teacher told me that the difference between A&T and the PWI down the road is that we're going to teach you how to think. They're going to teach you what to think. And that thinking helps me as an engineer. I would think that it would help people that's in there for business, people who's trying to go for anything else. It's true. They challenged me. Even with tests, they challenged me. They told me, you think that this is, you should have a higher grade? Why do you think you need to have a higher grade? Versus me challenging the PWI professor, which I have. And it's just they're going to say either that's the grade, deal with it, or they're going to say, well, I'm sorry, I'll give it to you. People who cave, they're like, I'll just give it to you because they want to meet the numbers. That's what PWIs work on. HBCUs, they're going to make you think critically. At least the one I went to, and a couple of others that I heard of. So you want to do that first. Then after you get your bachelor's, get your master's. I don't care what you decide to do. Get your master's after your bachelor's at a PWI, because then you have the best of both worlds. And if you want to go into corporate America, they might not recognize that HBCU, but they will recognize that PWI that you went to. So it helps you. So the bachelors help you learn. The masters help you get a job. And your PhD, if you want to go that route, because now you got a master's, you can just go get your PhD. So my first thing is make sure you have a plan for college. What do you want out of college? Don't go just because you graduated high school. Make it do what you needed to do for you. I also know a lot of engineers, when I graduated, worked at Food Line for 2 or 3 years because they couldn't get a job. It happens. So you got to be careful there.
With an engineering degree?
With an engineering, my colleague, they were working at Food Line for 3 years. I met when I worked at Daimler. Her uncle worked as a tech. So when I was trying to debug a situation, he asked me if I know the person. I said, yeah. And he was like, well, she can't get a job. Can you help her? But I'm gonna try to help. But she was still working at Food Line. She couldn't get a job. And I want to say her GPA was just as good as mine. I might have had an internship or two and she didn't, but I mean, that helps too. So I would say go make sure you do internships and co-ops, because then I'll put some experience behind your degree. But that happens, and again, she stopped after bachelor's. You got to get your master's after. If you don't get a job right after your bachelor's, go get your master's. It makes you more attractive because everybody can go to school now. Anybody can turn on the computer and log in and you have a bachelor's degree. So the job market is saturated with people who does have a higher education now. So how do you decipher through it? How do you differentiate yourself from your competitor? There you go, Morehouse. All right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think, and you're right about the degrees, and certifications are even important and will also make you more marketable too. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Make yourself marketable. Make yourself different from that next person, especially if you're one of us. Not trying to make it a racial thing, but if you are, it's that much harder. At the end of the day, it's that much harder, and it's not because the management, in my experience, are looking for not you. It's that most managers, they tend psychologically, there's actually been a study about this, to hire themselves, right? So if I'm blonde hair, blue eyed, and I got 3 applicants and I interview all of them, and only one of them are blonde hair, blue eyed, I'm gonna want that person more than I want the other person, because he just looks like me, he relates to me, especially if he talks like me and he went to the same college I went to, or we went to the same frat that I went to. Yeah. I want that person.
Frat brothers.
So frat brothers. There you go. So you wanna make sure that you differentiate yourself, make yourself more marketable, because you already got that going against you at the end of the day.
I know we're kind of running out of time here, but we didn't talk about, and just based on this, just a little. That's entrepreneurship. If if we can't get a job, then we should start talking about being a consultant or providing a job for ourselves, right? And people look at engineers as anybody can do it, that they can do it. People on the outside, but that's not really the case a lot. But what do you think about that?
Well, first, as an engineer, I can tell you right now, most colleges will give you a minor or a double major in math. You have to be an expert in math to do it. And I'm not talking about 1, 2, 3s or algebra or pre-algebra. I'm talking about calculus. I'm talking about differential equations. I'm talking about the stuff that you see on all the sci-fi TV shows with sine and cosine trigonometry. You need to know every single math that has been designed in electrical engineering and mechanical engineering. I don't know about the rest, but I know for those two for a fact. And that's hard. But to answer your question about entrepreneurship, my thing I would say about it, because I do have some side businesses that I work on now, you need a base income. And and this is from my experience, and you hear a lot of people who are entrepreneurs say the same thing. You need a base income. You need something that can support your whatever business you're trying to get off the ground. And you need to know some type of level of business. You need to know some type of level of accounting, some level of financing, because when it's tax time, you can claim all of it. Like, even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, still run some type of business or invest in some type of business, because that's how people, that the 1%ers get more rich, because they know how to make their money work for them. Yeah. You know, save a little bit, you know, even if it's $500, there's apps where you can invest in real estate for $500. And that's all you need to get started. And then while it's growing, you can do something else. Maybe you buy a house with that one, and then you rent that house out, and then you make a real estate business. I'm an engineer with a real estate business. It's okay to have different career fields.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
But to do so, don't go in there doe-eyed and say, I'm going to start a business and I'm going to get rich. 1%, they call it 1%ers for a reason, right? I'm not trying to say, you know, take away your dream of doing it, but I will say that to make it work for you and make the statistics work for you, work at McDonald's, even if you don't have an engineering job, work at McDonald's or something, and then let that fund your engineering job. You know, I started a wire harnessing job, and I did that in college while I was working at Pizza Inn. You know, once I learned how to make wire harnesses, I made them. I made it for the college, but it wasn't a lot of money, but it made me eat. You know, because, you know, in college you're a broke student, so you know, I wish I had known that what I was doing though could have been a tax write-off. I didn't know that. You know, and then that would have been more money for me at the end of the year. Pocket. You know, all the parts that the school bought for me or that I used from the school, technically once they gave it to me, that was mine. I could use that as a tax write-off because it's still worth something, even though I got it for free. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People don't know that. So learn the business, you know, learn how taxes work, learn how accounting and finances work. And no matter what you decide to do with your degree or what you decide to do with your business, because that all works for you.
Wow, man! Look, we enjoyed having you coming in with this type of information. And April, I'm gonna give you the last word on some remarks if you would like to.
Well, first of all,
impart on them.
Yes, thank you so much for being here with us. It was a great conversation, and you know, it appears that our some of the viewers who tuned in with tonight really enjoyed it. I hope that you answered some questions for them and you know, gave them something to think about. I'm not afraid of AI. We utilize it in terms of a lot of things around the house. Sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, this is a little bit too much. But at the same time, it's kind of like you need to embrace it as well, because it's here to stay. And so the more you learn about it, the more comfortable you'll become with it. And Brother Edward, I do have just a couple of things, and you can, to our social guests, please feel free to stick around for these announcements. But as you notice, I am wearing a t-shirt that says vote, vote, vote. Now more than ever, it is crucial that we get serious about voting in this next election. We have the primaries that are coming up. We have the general election this year, and there are a lot of positions in terms of political positions that are on the table, not only across the country, but also, remember, all politics is local. So we got to make sure that we are paying attention to our local races, our local elections. And so I want to share with everyone, and you can get this information by doing a simple Google search. I'm going to show you a resource in just a moment. But here are some of the local races, or as far as elections are concerned, and the election schedule for 2026. So as you can see, there's already been a couple of elections that have happened in terms of like runoffs, and now we are getting ready to go into our Democrat and Republican primaries in June, and any runoffs will happen later in the month of June. And in November will be our general elections. So you have everything on this list. We are, in terms of South Carolina, will be electing new governor and lieutenant governor. And if you've been paying attention to the news, you know why it's critical to make sure that we are all aware of who is on the ballot, what their platforms are, what their positions are, what they stand for, what they don't stand for, all the things. So everything from the governor's race, secretary of state, attorney general, you name it, several house seats, state house seats. Then we have some county council and the county council chairman district races that are going on. We have board of education chairman and several board of education districts that we will be electing for. And this is all very, very crucial, especially when it comes down to what's going on in Horry County. So if you want to know more about the candidates, if you want to understand more about how the election process happens, if you want to see the ballot before you actually go to the polls, one way that you can do it, I'm going to bring another resource onto the screen in just a moment here, is to visit. Let me share my screen.
While you do that, I'm going to go ahead and head out, guys. I appreciate
Okay, thank you so much.
Oh,
thank you for being with us tonight.
Oh man, good. Safe goings or whatever. Godspeed.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay.
take care. Thank you so much.
And happy Cinco de Mayo, everyone, whoever
Thanks.
celebrates that.
Yes,
Same to you.
absolutely. So you can go to Ballotpedia. That's the name of the website, ballotpedia.org, and put in information that will, or actually search for information that will help you to understand who's running for certain elected positions and what you can do in order to, ensure that you are aware of those candidates and who you're voting for. Okay. So one thing that I'm going to show you when it comes down to Ballotpedia is how this site works. Here we have Horry County Schools as an example of one of the races. There are 7 of the 12 seats on the Horry County School Board that are up for general election on November the 3rd. The primary is scheduled for June 9th. So that's right around the corner. And the primary filing deadline has passed. That was March 30th. And the general filing deadline is August the 17th. So a regular school board term is 4 years. There's information on this site as well that pretty much shows you a little bit of stats about Horry County. One thing is that they have, according to the enrollment figures from 23-24, that there are 48,205 students in the Horry County School District. And so what we want to make sure, of course, is that whenever we are electing our school boards, the school board officials, that there's a great representation across communities, across districts. There are lots of hyperlinks where you can, kind of drill in to see a little bit more information about who's running for office, who's already on the school board. Also, there's information about who the current superintendent is and who the past superintendents were. So a lot of great information on this website. And as you are, trying to figure out what you're supposed to do, who's running, what it looks like, again, just go through and play with it a little bit, click on the links, and it will bring up lots of good information. This site shows you every district, for example, in South Carolina, and I'm going to pull up Horry County Schools as an example. And again, it kind of takes you back to, what the results were and who all is running, what positions are open. And so again, inform yourselves about who's running, and we're going to talk more about this in the coming weeks, right, Brother Edward?
Yes,
as far as
absolutely.
Candidates, and we may even reach out and invite some people, to come on and talk about their positions in terms of, what their school board platforms are, and every district is different. So the thing that you need to know is that whenever you are voting for someone, you got to be aware of who's running in your district. And
Absolutely.
One way to do that is to, you can use Ballottopia to actually plop your address into a field, and it will show you all the candidates who represent your school district. So go to ballotopia.org. Put in your address, find out who is actually running for your district. And, what we'll do is every week we'll, share a little bit more information about candidates who are running, why it's important for you to understand the dates, the primaries. You can vote in primaries. And we're going to actually bring on some special guests in the near future to tell you how and why and all the good things. And so, Brother Edward, I think it's, definitely appropriate for us to go ahead and kick this off because, again, the primaries are coming up and then the general election in November, and we have to make sure that we are informed voters. We have to get out and vote. There's just no excuse. We have to get out and vote.
Absolutely. And April, that list you put up first, could you put that right back up again, just momentarily?
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that one, election schedule. That's critical there, and we need to look at that very carefully. And if I can extract that off maybe later on and kind of like send it out generally to the community and let them know when it's happening and so forth. I think I want to do that. And those dates, I'm glad you put those dates up. We got this June the 9th is the Democratic and Republican primaries.
The primaries.
Yeah, just the primaries.
And you should vote in the primaries. Don't wait until the general election to vote. Vote in the primaries. The primaries, when the primary happens, that's when you select your candidate who goes on to the general election. So you must vote in the primaries. And again, we're going to bring somebody on to explain how that works because there's a lot of misconceptions about who can vote in the primaries and how you should vote in the primaries. So, yeah. And to our viewers, we need to do our duty
because we pay such a higher price, to have that available to us. Okay, so I'm sending out a plea that please keep this in mind. And like April said, we're going to keep hammering on it. And we're not telling you how to vote, but we're going to keep hammering on it from here on to in November. Okay, because of the importance of it. And that's to us, to some of us, that's all the leverage we have. And and
absolutely. Yeah. And this list that I'm showing, Brother Edward, I will send it to you, but this is Horry County.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
This is Horry County and the state. So again, you want to make sure that you understand, what offices are open and who's running for office so that you can be an informed voter. There's one more thing that I want to show before we go, and it's just an example of how you can find out more about who's on the ballot. So if you go to Ballotpedia, there's in Ballotpedia under South Carolina local elections, you can pretty much put in your address. And I'm just going to put in an address here. Just to give an example of how you can do this. Okay, email address is optional. You don't have to do that. But when I put in 2005 7th Avenue in Conway, for example, it tells me that I have 35 days until the primaries, which is on Tuesday, June the 9th, and 182 days until the actual general election, which is on Tuesday, November the 3rd. Now, you can click on the primary section here, and it will bring up a sample ballot. And that's one of the easiest ways to find out what the ballot may look like, who's on the ballot, those types of things. This is not how you vote. Keep in mind, this is just a sample ballot. Also, I'm not sure, and I think we can find out whether or not any types of, amendments or any kinds of issues that people are voting on are included on these ballots. And if they are, somebody who's watching knows that they typically are. That's good because then you can read about those issues ahead of time so that you're not fumbling when you're at the polls. Because a lot of times you go in and you're already nervous about voting. You get in there and there's this, huge amendment or an issue that you have to vote on. And if you're trying to read and understand what it is that you're voting on, you feel a little pressed, especially if there's like a lot of people who are standing behind you who are waiting to vote. So that's why it's important to do this early so that you can be informed whenever you go to vote. But if you're looking at the sample ballot, basically it tells you that currently the data indicates that there will be that the ballot will contain 12 candidate races. And if you click on go as an example, it gives you all of the different races that are out there. For example, more local races, Horry County School Board Chair, Horry County School District 7. I think there are other, and when I click on 7 as an example, you see that there's Democratic Party incumbent Janet Graham is here, and then the Republican Party, Sonia Sasser. These are the two people who are running for District 7 as an example. And again, just drill through. You can just click through and get the information that you need on the candidates. For Horry County School Board, as an example, you see that there's Darryl Ricketts, who's a Republican Party member, and also Melanie Wellens, who's a Republican Party member. And again, even if you're Democrat, and you see that school board chair is the candidates for school board chair of the Republican Party, still you still need to go through and learn about these candidates, and then also understand whether or not you can vote in the primaries, even if you're not a Republican. There's some confusion there, Brother Edward, that we're going to clear up over the next couple of shows. But this is a way to find out who all the candidates are, and then you can do your own research on who is actually running for the various offices. And so when you do that, put in your address. That way you're not confused as well about which district you can actually vote for, especially if it's a local election. So I put in a particular address and it's for District 7, which means I can only vote for District 7. I can't vote for someone in District 5 because I don't live in that district, as an example. So Ballotpedia, I want to call it Ballotopia, but ballotpedia.org. It's a great resource. Check it out. If there's information that's not included on Ballotpedia, then just continue to do your research. And then also, as I said before, we will be sure to bring great information to you as well. So just wanted to, I lost Brother Edward for some reason, but just wanted to share that information. We certainly do appreciate all of you being with us tonight. And if you have any questions for us, if you have any topics that you would like for us to cover, please make sure to drop us a line at World Community Magazine on Facebook or through the website, or if you're connected to my Facebook page, you can drop a line as well. And we will certainly look into all of the topics and maybe even have you as a special guest if there's something you want to talk about. We'd love to have you. So next week, we'll be back, same time, 7 p.m. And just look for the announcements to come through Brother Edward, but also post it here on Facebook and on our website. So thank you all so very much. And we hope that you have a wonderful rest of the week. Good night.
Thank you for watching the World Community Magazine's Hour of Power Live on Facebook.